So we'll start discussing some Inyani Pesach, and since we've been discussing some Inyani Kiddush, it's a good transition discussing, is there any difference between the mitzvah of Kiddush all year round and the mitzvah of Kiddush on Leil Pesach. So we'll discuss some differences. So the Gemara tells us in Brachas, on Daf Chav Zayin, Rav Soli Shel Shabbos Be'erev Shabbos. Rav basically made Shabbos early. He made Kiddush early before nightfall, even before Shkia, after Plag HaMincha. An hour, a 6 to 6 day, an hour and a quarter before sunset, after 4:45. So Rav made Kiddush early. How can you make Kiddush before Shabbos? So there's a concept of Tosefes Shabbos. Is Tosefes Shabbos, is that a Din D'Oraisa, a Din D'Rabbanan? So actually the source of Tosefes goes back to a Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara in Yuma tells us, and everyone agrees to this, that the mitzvah min Torah of Tosefes Yom HaKippurim. The pasuk says the 9th when it's really the 10th, and the Gemara tells us, we learn out from here that you bring in Yom Kippur early and you extend it as well. So there's a mitzvah, explicit Gemara, and even the Rambam, I'll say even the Rambam, because the Rambam doesn't mention Tosefes Shabbos or Tosefes Yantiv. He only quotes the halacha by Tosefes Yom HaKippurim. Everybody agrees Tosefes Yom HaKippurim is a mitzvah min Torah. What about Tosefes Shabbos and Yantiv? Again, people also make a mistake. They think there's no Tosefes Yantiv. There's no fundamental difference between Tosefes Shabbos and Tosefes Yantiv. The reason some people make this mistake is because there are certain Yom Tovim that you can't bring it in early. Perhaps Leil Pesach, perhaps Leil Shavuos, but they're all technical reasons. Other reasons, nothing to do with the halacha of Tosefes Shabbos. It could be out Tamimas, it could be out the Korban Pesach, whatever the issues are, they're not Tosefes Yantiv. So fundamentally, there is no difference between Tosefes Shabbos and Tosefes Yantiv. So, what is the status of Tosefes Shabbos and Tosefes Yantiv? So the Or Zarua writes, and others, we see based on this Gemara, how can Rav make Kiddush after Plag HaMincha, before nightfall, out Tosefes Shabbos? The mitzvah Kiddush is a mitzvah min Torah. But then it must be that Tosefes Shabbos is D'Oraisa, because the Tosefes Shabbos is only D'Rabbanan. How could you do a mitzvah min Torah in this man which isn't Shabbos min Torah? It's only Midrabanan. Hence, many Rishonim conclude that the mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos and Yantiv is a mitzvah min Torah. There is a Mordechai in Megillah which says the Kasha is the Teretz. No, Tosefes Shabbos is D'Rabbanan, and that's the Raya that you could do he gets into the whole discussion, can a D'Rabbanan be Yotzei D'Oraisa? But we see from here, he says, you could do mitzvah min Torah in a Zman, which is only D'Rabbanan. So the Mordechai turns the Kasha into the Teretz. But other Rishonim, and the way we assume that Tosefes Shabbos is D'Oraisa as well, and therefore that's why you can make Kiddush during that time. The Rambam is silent on the issue. He doesn't discuss Tosefes Shabbos. It's just non-existent. So what's the pshat? So how could you make Shabbos early then? According to how does he learn that Gemara? How could you bring in Shabbos early if there's no concept of Tosefes Shabbos? How could you make Kiddush early? So that's what the Rambam writes. Rav Soloveitchik explains, and others, that no, by the mitzvah of Kiddush is before Shabbos. In other words, it has to be, within a reasonable amount of time, so maybe after Plag HaMincha. But the mitzvah of Kiddush, as we discussed in Kiddush, the mitzvah, that was the machlokas Ramban, and what is the nature of the mitzvah of Kiddush. But according to the Rambam, the mitzvah is Zechira Shevach. It's to talk about the unique praise of Shabbos, Bichnisaso, in its entrance Uli Yitziyasa when it's exit. So the mitzvah is actually, you talk about it before it comes. According to the Rambam, you can make Havdalah before Shabbos is over. Of course, you could say Hamavdi, you can't light candles and any of that stuff, and you can't do Malacha, but that's the Rambam Shita. The Rambam Shita, there's no Kasha, there is no concept of Tosefes Shabbos, it's just that the mitzvah of Kiddush, you're allowed to make, you have to Plag HaMincha. That's the mitzvah of B'Yitziyaso, B'Chnisaso, B'Yitziyaso. So either way, whatever the lumdus is, whether you want to take Tosfos, the Mordechai, and the Rambam, everyone agrees to the bottom line. Rav Soisho Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, we make early Shabbos, especially now with the clock changing. We talk about colloquial early Shabbos. Really, every week is early Shabbos, because that's when we light candles. The minhag in America, North America is 18 minutes before, and Yerushalayim might be 30, 40. But we bring in, there's a mitzvah in our Torah to Tosefes Shabbos, even when Shabbos is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But we talk about early Shabbos, we don't mean Al Tosefes Shabbos, meaning it is so, but we mean early Shabbos. How early can we bring in after Plag HaMincha? So whoever the lumdus is, the bottom line is, the halacha is this coming Friday night, and any other Friday night, you can bring, I don't see, as we'll get into Ramosha, so I don't see too many people bringing in early, quote-unquote, early Shabbos in the winter. I don't see many people bringing in Shabbos at 3 o'clock after Plag. That's a separate discussion. But the bottom line is, you can make Kiddush early, and whatever the lumdus is, either on Tosefes Shabbos or that's the mitzvah. So everyone agrees you can make Kiddush early on a regular Friday night. What about Kiddush Leil Pesach? As I said, there's no fundamental difference in Tosefes Yontif between Yontif and Shabbos, so I would think that the same halacha should apply Leil Pesach. It's all about the kids. Pesach night, the earlier the better, while they're still up. So I would expect the same halacha. Yet if I open up the Shulchan Aruch, that's the first mistake. You open up the Shulchan Aruch and the Machaber writes, you can't make Kiddush ad shetechshach. You can't make Kiddush until nightfall. And the question is why? So what is the difference? Why by Kiddush all year round I can make it after Plag HaMincha? But yet by Leil Pesach, the Shulchan Aruch writes, I have to wait until Laila. So what's that all about? So this is a machlokas between the Magen Avram and the Taz. What is pshat in the Machaber? Why is the Machaber being machmir by Leil Pesach in contradistinction to the rest of the year? So the Magen Avram says as follows. We know the Gemara in Pesachim and Kuf Chav makes a hekish between, we know we have to eat the Karban Pesach, we prepare it before, and we eat the Karban Pesach at night. Machlokas in the Gemara whether you have to finish it by Chatzos or whether you have until Alos HaShachar. And the Gemara equates that today we don't have the Karban Pesach, so we have a hekish to matzah. So the Gemara equates matzah to Karban Pesach. So just like matzah, just like Karban Pesach has to be eaten at night, so too matzah has to be eaten, and then you have the machokas. You have to finish the matzah by Chatzos or by Alos HaShachar. And in fact, Rashi over there has a bigger chiddush. Not only do you compare achilas matzah to achilas Karban, but the hachana, just like you prepare for the Karban Pesach after Chatzos, so too that's when you should start baking matzahs after Chatzos, and that's a separate share in terms of that. But that's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. The Hasidim who are machmir that they wait until Erev Pesach after Chatzos and they bake the matzah. A lot of pros and cons. If you could get your hands on the matzah, or should I say if you could afford that matzah, then there's no reason not to get it. But we'll get into that. But that's just on the side. Besides that, we have another pasuk anyway. Be'erev tochu matzos. But either way, the Gemara tells us matzah has to be eaten at night. So that's the Gemara. Comes along the Magen Avram and says it doesn't only apply to matzah and Karban Pesach, but kol ha-mitzvahs halayla. that the Magen Avram, based on different sources, says this is true for the whole night. It applies to the mitzvah of Dalit Kosels. For Asting Tosas says also Hallel should be done before Chatzos. So all the mitzvahs halayla. That's the sheet of the Magen Avram, that one should fit, one, it's not just limited to matzah, but all the Dalit Kosels, all the mitzvahs halayla have to be done and be finished, and be finished, at Chatzos. That's the time we're assuming. So the Magen Avram is saying, why? So why is Leil Pesach different? It's nothing to do with Kiddush. Kiddush is the same Leil Pesach as it is this coming week. The reason why the Mechazes have to go back, it's a chisaron in the midst. It's a din in Leil Pesach that from the Hekesh Midrabanan we compare Dalit Kosas to Matzah, and the Chachamim said, according to the Magen Avram anyway, that one has to do the Dalit Kosas at nighttime, and that's why it's no good. It's not, Kiddush isn't it's a chisaron in the Dalit Kosas. It's one of the mitzvahs. It always happens that the first cup is always Kiddush, and therefore, if you make Kiddush before Laila, you're not going to be Yotze your first cup. That's the Magen Avram. The Taz says nothing doing. He says it has everything to do with Kiddush. The reason why the Machaber says you can't make Kiddush early is it's all about Kiddush. What do you mean it's all about? So why then, why is it all about Kiddush Leil Pesach and not all about Kiddush every other night of the year, every other Friday night? So the Taz explains as follows. You're familiar with the principle, and the Gemara elaborates in Arvei Pesachim, Kiddush b'makam Suda. There's a halacha that you have to have Kiddush in the place of Yisuda. How far does that go? What's considered makam Suda? That's a separate discussion. In the same room, could you see the person? But whatever the parameters are, the halacha is clear. You need Kiddush b'makam Suda. And that what it means is, physically you make Kiddush in the place, where you're eating. Comes along the Taz and says a bigger Kiddush. He wants to expound the definition of Kiddush b'makam Suda. Not only does Kiddush b'makam Suda mean actually in the place where you're having the Suda, but it has to be Roy with Suda. In other words, I have to be able to eat the meal now. If I can't eat the meal now, I can't make Kiddush. So in other words, so we know from the Hekesh from the Gemara in Pesachim or the Pasuk, by Karban Pesach or Erev Tochlu Matzos, we know you have to eat the Karban Pesach, i.e. the matzah at night. The matzah is the Suda, that's the bread. So since I can't eat the matzah until nightfall, so if I make Kiddush before nightfall, I'm lacking in Kiddush b'makam Suda. I'm not yotzei my mitzvah of Kiddush. That's why the Machaber says to wait. By the rest of the year, as a discussion we'll get into, but the assumption is you can have your Suda during the day, like before Seitz. That's a separate Machokas Taz and Marshal, maybe we'll get into. But by the assumption is on Shabbos you can eat your meal early, so therefore you do Kiddush b'makam Suda. But by Pesach you have to eat the matzah at night. The matzah is the definition of your Suda. Therefore, if you make Kiddush before the Zman of eating matzah, you are lacking in Kiddush b'makam Suda, hence you're not yotzei the mitzvah of Kiddush. So it's a fundamental machlokes Taz and Magen Avram. What's the pshat in the Machaber? Why is the Machaber so strict that you can't make Kiddush on Leil Pesach? Either the Magen Avram it's a chisaron in the mitzvahs halayla, nothing to do with Kiddush, it has to do that Kiddush happens to be the first cup of wine. According to Taz, it has everything to do with Kiddush. My nafkamina. What's the practical difference between the Taz and the Magen Avram? The bottom line is, push comes to shove, I'm going to have to wait until nightfall to make Kiddush. So why are we getting all excited about this Machokas Magen Avram and Taz? So nafkamina will be as follows. Let's say you went ahead, you made Kiddush early. You didn't know the Machaber. You made Kiddush before the Zman, and then someone tells you, someone tells you later, you're about. So the Lachzo, according to the Magen Avram, it's no problem. You're yotzei the mitzvah of Kiddush. You can be yotzei Kiddush early, The problem is it's lacking in one of the four cups. You have to go ahead and drink another cup according to the Magen Avraham. You have to drink another cup because you need the 4 cups from after nightfall until Chatzos, or Alos, whatever shita we're assuming. But according to the Taz, if you make Kiddush early, you're lacking Kiddush from Makam Suda. You're not Yotzei Kiddush. Again, that gets into, that whole shit. But let's assume if you don't have Kiddush from Makam Suda, you're not Yotzei the mitzvah of Kiddush. And hence, you're chayav to make Kiddush over again. So nafkamina number 1 is, if you made Kiddush early, once it became nightfall, would you have to go ahead and make another Kiddush? According to the Magen Avraham, no. You just have to drink another cup. But according to the Taz, yes. That's one nafkamina. So that's I guess a kula for the Magen Avraham and a chumrah for the Taz. On the other hand, usually a kula ends up being a chumrah and a chumrah ends up being a kula. The question is, when do I have to finish? When do I have to drink the 4 cups by? So according to the Magen Avraham, you have to finish everything by Chatzos. People have a whole discussion. Let's finish that, get the Afikomen in by Chatzos and all that. But really, according to the Magen Avraham, and that one has to finish the whole Seder by. In fact, Rav Shachto always likes saying over the story, his kids, I guess, went to Breuer's. He lives in Washington Heights. Are you with me? So, kids can, maybe some adults do it also, but kids, when they come back, you see them the next. My Seder went to 1 o'clock. My Seder went to 3 o'clock. My Seder ended at Chatzos, or, because Rav Shachta's shita was, you have to finish the whole Seder by Chatzos, right, based on this Magen Avraham. So it's a chumrah in that sense, or perhaps some might say it's a kula. You actually get to go to sleep at Chatzos that night, but however you want to look at it, it's sprinkled with kulas and chumras in there in different perspectives. Whatever you want, the Magen Avraham says, and that's where Rav Shachta works with, you have to finish the whole Seder. Obviously you could sing Yechagad anytime you want, but with the halachic part of the Seder, you have to finish the Hallel. Whatever is halachically considered part of the Seder, you should finish everything by Chatzos. And according to Taz, you don't have to finish by Chatzos. The reason why the Machaber said nightfall is because Kiddush Makam Suda, but there is no halacha that we compare Dalit Kosas to Matzah, and you have the whole night to finish the. So that's the Machlokas, the Taz and the Magen Avraham, and the Nafkamina. What I was talking about by Tosefes Shabbos is there is actually a Tosefes Tosis Harush and Brachas, which actually does say we do have a halacha of Tosefes by Leil Pesach, and you can make Pesach, or the same, you can make Kiddush after Pag HaMincha. He says the halacha is the same way, and we don't pass in the Mechaber, it's not even brought down as a sheet in the Shulchan Aruch. But there is a sheet out there in the Rishonim. So what's in the Kudas HaMachlokes? Whether you could, in general, whether you could, what's the Kudas HaMachlokes in general in terms of the nature of Tosefes Shabbos? So that's the Machlokes Taz and the Marshal. Well, because the whole discussion is a discussion, as I mentioned, let's say you make Shabbos early. Do I have to have a kazayas of bread after Seiz? So I can make Shabbos, I can make Kiddush early, but then can I bench before Shkia? Or can I bench before Seiz? Or I could start early, but I should have a kazayas of bread. So that's a machlokas among the Achronim. Whether so I think Makerei, then we paskin, you don't have to have it. But obviously, let's put it this way: if it's nightfall, it's good to cover all your shittas. It can't hurt to have another kazayas of challah, especially if it's good challah. But I'm saying it's for this. So I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know if someone bedavka has to keep the meal going, and it's usually not too much of an issue anyway. Somehow it's never been an issue because you usually end up going well in. Even if you start early, you still end up going into Seiz anyway. So the minig is most people, I don't know if they even think, but it can't hurt to have a kazayas of challah after nightfall. But it's a machlokas among the Achronim. I think it's the Taz and the Marshal, I believe. And what's in the Kudas HaMachlokas? I think the Taz says no. You could eat. You could finish your meal before nightfall. And the Marshal holds, no, you should have another Kizayas of bread after. What's in the Kudus HaMachlokas between the Taz and Marshal? On how do you view Tosefes Shabbos or Tosefes Yantiv? Is the Pshat, does it transform the day? It turns it into Machar Mamish, it turns it into Laila Mamish, right? Okay, Tosefes Shabbos now, Al Pi Halacha, it's the next day. Oh no. Do I say Tosefes Shabbos? It's not the next day, it's still light out. It's still Friday. But the Kiddush of Tosefes Shabbos is that we let you do the mitzvahs Hayom during this time period. But it's not that it doesn't transform the day, and in fact, as I think when Moshe has a tshuva, let's say it comes up during Sfiras HaOmer, let's say you make early Shabbos, you daven Ma'ariv, and then you remember you didn't count last night's day yet. In other words, it's Shabbos already. You're already like Makabel Shabbos, right? You got the case. Mm-hmm. So could you still count Sfira of yesterday? So again, I think Rav Moshe says yes, but the issue is this: if you assume Tosefes Shabbos is like Machar, or it's too late. Well, I shouldn't say it's too late. When we get to Sfiras Omer Shir, I'll fill you in. But maybe it's not too late. But whatever the halacha is, if you missed the whole day, then the halacha would apply. Whatever the halacha is. But if you hold no, it's still Friday, it's just a special day, so then you would be able to count. That's where Moshe seems to go with in this issue he's making. So and this issue also, the Taz and Marshal, they go along, it's like as well, they have the same discussion by Shavuos night, in terms of like, because you need Tamimis. So I think it's according to the Taz, it's Machamam, so it's a problem then they say, I think the Taz writes, that you can't make it early, because then it's the Chisaron and Tamimis. And the Marshal, it's not a problem. Like, it doesn't do with Tamimis. I'm just bringing, so it'll be a cool and a chomer. It also comes up, I think, Hoshana Rabbah. Could you bring in? They discussed, could you bring in Shmini Atzeres early? So according to the Taz, maybe it's a problem because then you're again assuming it would be a problem. But then according to the according to the Marshal, it's still you're not necessarily taking the day. But so they discussed the question there. I just want to point out here that perhaps, so what does the Taz say by, the Taz says you can eat your bread, you can finish your whole meal before Seitz. And the Marashal says no. So perhaps we could say it's the Taz L'Shitason. This Taz over here is the same Taz over here, or is the same Taz. But what do I mean? It's l'shitason. It seems to fit in very nicely. What do I mean? Because what was the Taz over there? Why can't you make Kiddush early? Because why? It's a chisaron and Kiddush b'makam suda. So according to the Taz, you have to say you can eat your meal before Seder, or you won't be able to be Yotzei Kiddush. By definition, according to the Taz, Kiddush b'makam suda means it needs royal suda. According to the Taz, you can't say, well, you can make Kiddush now, but you got to eat your meal later. According to the Taz, that's the Chisaron and Kiddush. According to the Marshal, he doesn't go with the Taz's Kiddush. That's not Kiddush B'Malkam Sudas. According to the Marshal, you can entertain making Kiddush now and eating the Suda later. We see how the Taz fits in with Shitasum. It's Kiddush of Kiddush B'Malkam Suda. The Taz has to say you can eat the meal before Seder, or else you won't be able to make Kiddush. By definition, I only can make Kiddush in the Zman where I can eat the Suda. So this Taz, in this Machokas Taz Marshal, by Friday night all year round, is L'Shitason with this Taz and Hilchos Pesach. The same reason why you have to wait Leil Pesach, because by Be'erev Tochu Matzos, V'achos Abaz V'layla Zeh, you have to wait for Laila, and you need Kiddush B'Makam Suda. You got that or not? So we see that so we got to our first nafkamina between Kiddush Leil Pesach and Kiddush all year round. We'll have to summarize. I think you have to go soon. You're on a tight schedule, so we'll just summarize and we'll have to continue tomorrow. So he's pointed out there's a mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos. So the halach is, we said, we know, Rav Soli Shel Shabbos, Erev Shabbos. The bottom line is, this discussion, or Zarua, that's the raya. Tosefes Shabbos is the raya. Everyone agrees to Tosefes Yom HaKippurim. That's the raya from Tosefes Shabbos. The fact you can make Shabbos early, that means it shows that Tosefes Shabbos is Daraisa. The Mordechai in Megillah says, no, here's the Raya that the Rabbanan can be mostly just like a Zman, you could do a mitzvah min Torah during a Zman Darabanan, so too a Darabanan can be mostly a Daraisa. And then you have the Rambam Shita that no, that is the Zman of Kiddush. So whatever the Pshat is, we made Kiddush early Friday night. Yet the Shulchan Aruch says you can't make Kiddush ad shetekshach leil Pesach. So what's the Pshat? So the Magen Avraham says because this fact we have a pasuk by Karban Pesach, and the Gemara equates matzah to Karban Pesach, and the Magen Avraham extends the midrabanan not only to matzah but all the mitzvahs alayla, and therefore since it always works out that their Kiddush is always the first cup of wine, so out the first cup of wine you need nightfall, so therefore the Magen Avraham, that's what the Machaber is getting. It's not a din in Kiddush, it's a din in Daled Kosas. And the Taz says no, it's a din in Kiddush. You need Kiddush from Makam Suda, it has to be Roy with Suda, and since you can't eat the matzah until nighttime, you can't make Kiddush either. My nafkamina between the Magen Avraham and the Taz, either way I can't make Kiddush early. What happens if you did make Kiddush early? According to the Magen Avraham, you yotze in the midst of Kiddush, you just have to drink another cup of wine, that's the Daled Kosas. According to the Taz, you're not even yotze in the midst of Kiddush, and on the flip side, do I have to finish the 4 cups of wine by Chatzos? According to the Magen Avraham, yes, that's the Rav Shechter Shita. And according to the Taz, no. Which seems to be the minhag olam. People don't seem to finish the Seder. They're lucky if they finish the Afikomen by Chatzos, let alone the rest of the Seder. And we said this Taz seems to be Gushitas, and there's a Machokas Taz of Marshal in many places, but one by Friday night, now that it's early Shabbos. So the Taz says you can not only can you make Kiddush, you can finish your Suda and bench everything even before nightfall. And the Marshal writes one should have a kazayas of bread later on. So I'm pointing. So no, it's a machokas. It's a fundamental machokas Taz the Marshal. What is the nature of Tosefes Shabbos? The Taz writes it's kamarcha mamish, and the Marshal says no, it's this regarding the mitzvah sayom and the Ramoshes tshuva by Sfiras HaOmer that we see that is working with the. Not with the Taz, it's not Machar Mamish, or according to the Taz it'd be too late. And we said perhaps these two Taz work hand in hand, because the Taz has to hold you can eat the meal before nightfall. The fact that everyone agrees you can make Kiddush, the only way according to Taz you can be Yotzei Kiddush, you need Kiddush from Makam Susa. By definition the Taz says you have to eat the meal, and that's consistent with the Taz here, that the reason the Machaber is saying you have to wait until nightfall is because you need Kiddush from Makam Suda. You need the Zman Harayla Suda, which is Vachos Abasa B'Layla Zeh, which is Dafka B'Layla and not before.